Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the window of the ship Harmony's Dawn and looked out at the stars. She had never seen anything like this before. The space station ahead of them was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. It spun slowly in the darkness, its lights blinking in patterns she did not understand. "First time seeing a real alien station?" asked Captain Rodriguez as he joined her at the window. Elena nodded. "It's beautiful and terrifying," the captain smiled. "That's what I thought when I saw the pictures. But seeing it with your own eyes is different." Elena had been picked to lead Earth's first diplomatic mission to the aliens. She spoke 6 languages, had degrees in law and politics, and had spent her whole career solving problems between different countries. But this was different. This was not about countries anymore. This was about Earth meeting the rest of the galaxy. 3 months ago, Earth had received a message from space. It was not from little green men in flying saucers. It was from something called the Zephyrian Collective. The message was simple. Earth was invited to meet with the Galactic Council. Humanity could join the galaxy as a member species. The whole world had celebrated. After thousands of years of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. They were not alone. And the aliens wanted to meet them. Elena had spent weeks preparing for this moment. She had studied every piece of information Earth had about the Zephyrian Collective. They were a group of 12 different alien species who ruled this part of the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever built, but Elena was not worried about their technology. She was excited about what humans could offer them. Earth had art, music, literature, and science. Humans were creative and resourceful. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had built cities and sent ships to other planets. Elena believed that humanity had a lot to give to the galaxy. "Ambassador, we're getting a message from the station," called Lieutenant Chin from the communications station. Elena walked over to the communications area, put it on the main screen. The screen flickered and then showed the inside of what looked like a huge room. There were creatures Elena had never imagined sitting around a curved table. Some looked like giant insects. Others had too many arms or strange colored skin. At the center sat a being that was tall and thin with skin that changed colors like a mood ring. "Human vessel Harmony's Dawn," the colored skin alien said in perfect English. "I am High Counselor Vexthan of the Altarian species. You are cleared to dock at Port 7. Do not bring weapons." The screen went dark. "Well," said Captain Rodriguez, "they seem friendly." Elena was not sure about that. The alien's voice had been cold, like a teacher talking to a student who had done something wrong. But she pushed the feeling away. This was too important to worry about small things. 2 hours later, Elena walked through the docking tube that connected their ship to the alien station. She wore her best diplomatic uniform and carried a briefcase full of gifts from Earth. Behind her walked her team of advisors and security guards. The inside of the station was even more impressive than the outside. The halls were wide and tall, with walls that seemed to glow with soft light. Strange symbols covered the walls, probably writing in alien languages. The air smelled different, like flowers mixed with electricity. They were met by a small alien who looked like a cross between a person and a bird. "I am Guide Piptel," it said in a high, musical voice. "I will take you to the council chamber." As they walked through the station, Elena saw aliens everywhere. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others crawled or floated or moved in ways that made no sense. None of them paid much attention to the human visitors. A few looked at them with what might have been curiosity, but most just ignored them completely. "How many species live here?" Elena asked Guide Piptel. "The station currently houses representatives from 47 species, the guide answered. "Most are members of the collective. Others are client species who serve the collective in various ways." Client species. Elena did not like the sound of that, but she said nothing. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Elena could not see the top. The walls curved around them in a perfect circle. In the center was a raised platform with 12 seats, each one different and clearly made for a different type of alien body. 11 of the seats were filled. The 12th, Elena realized, was probably meant for humanity if things went well. High Counselor Vexton sat in the largest chair. Up close, Elena could see that his skin was covered in patches that glowed and changed color. His eyes were large and dark, and when he looked at her, she felt like a bug under a microscope. "Approach," Vexton said. Elena walked to the center of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the huge space. When she reached the center, she stopped and looked up at the council. "Honored members of the Zephyrian Collective," she began. "I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez, representing the planet Earth and all of humanity. We come to you in peace, hoping to join the galactic community as friends and partners." She had practiced this speech 100 times. She had memorized every word. But now, standing in front of these powerful aliens, the words felt small and weak. "We know why you are here," Vexton said. His voice filled the chamber without effort. "Your species has barely learned to leave its own planet. You have primitive technology and no understanding of galactic politics. Yet you believe you can sit as equals among civilizations that have mastered space travel for longer than your species has existed." Elena felt her face get hot, but she kept her voice calm. "We may be new to space travel, but humanity has much to offer. We are innovative, creative, and adaptable. We have survived and thrived on a planet that has tested us with ice ages, natural disasters, and countless challenges. We believe that our unique perspective and abilities could benefit the collective." She opened her briefcase and took out a small device. "We have brought gifts to show our intentions. This contains samples of human art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries. We also have proposals for trade agreements and cultural exchange programs." The chamber was quiet for a moment. Then Elena heard something that made her blood run cold. It started as a low sound from one of the aliens, then spread to others. It was laughter, but not the kind of laughter that meant something was funny. It was the kind of laughter that meant someone thought you were stupid. Vexton's skin patches flashed bright colors as he laughed. "Art? Music?" He said, "Child, we have art from civilizations that were painting masterpieces when your world was still covered in ice. We have music from species that can create sounds your primitive ears cannot even hear." Other council members joined in. Elena saw creatures with multiple mouths all laughing at once. She saw beings whose bodies pulsed with light in what she now understood was alien laughter. The sound filled the chamber and seemed to go on forever. When the laughter finally stopped, Vexton leaned forward in his chair. "Your species amuses," you said. "You arrive here in a ship that our children could build as a school project. You offer us trinkets and expect to be treated as equals. It is ... what is the human word ... cute?" Elena's hands were shaking, but she forced herself to speak. "We understand that we have much to learn. But every species in this chamber was once new to space travel. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves. And you shall have that chance," Vexton said. His skin patches had stopped flashing and now glowed a steady red color. "We offer you the same choice we offer all new species. You may become a client species under our protection. Your people will mine asteroids, maintain our ships, and serve the collective in whatever way we require. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy and provide you with technology appropriate to your current level of development." Elena felt her heart sink. "And if we refuse? Then you will face the consequences of your presumption," Vexton said simply. "We have dealt with stubborn species before. Most learn wisdom quickly, those that do not." He shrugged, a gesture that looked strange on his alien body. Elena looked around the chamber at the faces of the council members. Some looked bored, others looked amused. None looked like they cared what happened to humanity. "I will need to discuss this with my government," Elena said. "Of course," Vexton said. "You have one standard galactic cycle to decide. We suggest you choose wisely." As Elena and her team were escorted back to their ship, she could still hear the echo of alien laughter in her ears. They had come here with hope and friendship. They were leaving with an ultimatum. Captain Rodriguez was waiting for her when she returned to the ship. How did it go? He asked. Elena looked out the window at the massive alien station. Prepare for departure, she said quietly. We need to get home. We have a choice to make. But deep in her heart, Elena already knew what Earth's answer would be. Humanity had never bowed to bullies before. They were not going to start now. The ship Harmony's Dawn flew through space toward Earth. The journey would take 2 weeks, but Ambassador Elena Vasquez knew that every second counted. As soon as they were far enough from the alien station, she sent an emergency message to Earth. President. Sarah Chain was in her office in Geneva when the message arrived. She had been waiting for 3 days, hoping for good news. Instead, she watched Elena's tired face on the screen and listened to words that made her stomach feel sick. They laughed at us, Elena said in the recorded message. They treated us like children playing dress-up. They want us to become their servants, mining rocks and fixing their ships. If we say no, they will attack us. We have 30 days to decide. President Chun closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She had hoped the aliens would be different. She had dreamed of sharing knowledge and exploring the stars together. Instead, Earth faced the same choice that bullies had always given to smaller kids. Give up your lunch money or get beaten up. The president called an emergency meeting of the Global Unity Council. Within 6 hours, leaders from every nation on Earth were gathered in the council chamber. Some came in person. Others appeared on screens from around the world. President Ching stood at the front of the room and played Elena's message for everyone to see. The room was quiet as they watched. When the message ended, the arguing began. We have to be realistic, said Chancellor Mueller from Germany. Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. Fighting them would be suicide. So we should. Just give up? Asked President Okafor from Nigeria. Become slaves to these aliens because they have better spaceships. It's not about being slaves, said Prime Minister Tanaka from Japan. It's about surviving. Maybe if we work with them for a few hundred years, we can learn their technology and become equals. General Harrison, the head of Earth's military forces, shook his head. A few hundred years? These aliens have been in space for thousands of years. Do you really think they'll ever see us as equals? Or will our children and grandchildren still be mining rocks for them? The debate went on for hours. Some leaders wanted to accept the alien offer. They argued that humanity could learn and grow while under alien protection. Others said that freedom was more important than safety. They would rather die as free humans than live as alien pets. President Chun listened to every argument. She thought about her own children and what kind of world she wanted to leave them. Finally, she called for quiet. I want to hear from our military leaders, she said. If we refuse their offer, what are our chances? General Harrison stood up. Honestly, not good. Their technology is far beyond ours, but we're not completely helpless. We have nuclear weapons, and we know our own solar system better than they do. If we had time to prepare, time would we need? Asked President Chun. At least a year. Maybe 2, the general answered. But even then, we'd be fighting a defensive war. We couldn't attack their homeworlds or their main fleets. The best we could hope for is to make attacking Earth so costly that they decide we're not worth the trouble. Or they could just blow up our planet from a safe distance, said Chancellor Mueller. They could, General Harrison agreed. But they want us alive to work for them. Dead humans can't mine asteroids. President Chun nodded. What about other options? Could we hide, run away? Admiral Foster from the Space Force answered this time. We have colonies on Mars and the Moon, and a few research stations in the outer system. We could evacuate maybe 1 million people before they arrive. But that would mean leaving 8 billion people behind. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If they ran, most of humanity would be left to face the aliens alone. President Chun looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. She saw fear, anger, and determination. I'm going to ask for a vote, she said. But first, I want everyone to understand what we're really choosing. She walked to the center of the room. If we accept their offer, humanity becomes a worker species. Our children will grow up knowing that aliens are their masters. We might be safe, but we'll never be free. If we refuse, we might all die. But we'll die as free humans who chose their own path. She paused and looked at each leader in turn. The question is simple. Do we kneel or do we fight? The vote was taken by secret ballot. One by one, each leader placed their vote in a sealed box. President Chun counted them herself while the room waited in silence. When she finished counting, she looked up at the assembled leaders. The vote is unanimous, she said. Earth refuses to kneel. The room erupted in cheers and applause. But President Chun raised her hand for quiet. Now comes the hard part, she said. We have 30 days to prepare for war against an enemy we can't beat. General Harrison, I'm giving you emergency powers to mobilize every resource on Earth. Money is no object. Laws that get in the way can be changed. Do whatever you need to do. General Harrison nodded grimly. Yes, Madam President. I won't let you down. Over the next week, the news spread across Earth. President Chen appeared on every television, computer, and phone screen on the planet. She told humanity about the choice they faced and the decision their leaders had made. We tried to offer friendship, she said from her office in Geneva. We came to them with open hearts and open hands. We offered to share our art, our music, our dreams. They laughed at us. They see us as nothing more than a curiosity, a primitive species to be catalogued and controlled. She looked directly into the camera, and her voice became stronger. But we are not primitive. We are human. We have climbed out of caves and built cities. We have survived ice ages and plagues. We have walked on other worlds and sent our voices across the void of space. We have never bowed to bullies, and we will not start now. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. People flooded the streets in every major city. They carried signs that said, "Free humans, and we will not kneel." Some people were scared, but most were angry. The aliens had insulted all of humanity, and humans did not forget insults. In space. Ambassador Elena finally arrived at the alien station to deliver Earth's answer. She had spent the 2-week journey writing and rewriting her speech. Now she stood once again in the massive council chamber, looking up at the alien counselors. High Counselor Vexton S. skin patches glowed a curious blue color as Elena spoke. The people of Earth have considered your offer, she said. We are grateful for your generosity, but we must respectfully decline. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then Vexton S. Patches flashed red, and his voice filled the room. You choose extinction over wisdom. How very human. We choose freedom over slavery, Elena replied calmly. We choose to stand as equals or not at all. Equals? Vexton laughed, but this time his laughter was not amused. It was angry. You barely have fusion power. Your fastest ships would take years to reach the nearest star. You have never fought a real war against a spacefaring enemy. What makes you think you can stand against the might of the collective? Elena lifted her chin and looked directly at the alien leader. Because we're human, she said simply. We don't know how to quit. Vexton stood up from his chair. He was much taller than Elena had realized, and his red skin patches made him look like a demon from human nightmares. Very well, he said. Your species chooses the hard path. So be it. He turned to one of the other council members, a creature that looked like a giant spider made of metal. Commander Kethva, mobilize the 3rd Pacification Fleet. This shouldn't take long, the spider alien bowed. How many ships, High Counselor? 1,000 should be sufficient, Vexton said. These humans need to learn their place in the galaxy. Make the lesson memorable, but leave enough alive to serve as workers. Dead slaves are worthless. Elena felt cold, but she kept her voice steady. When will your fleet arrive? 8 of your months, Vexton said. Use the time wisely. Perhaps some of your leaders will come to their senses before it's too late. As Elena was escorted back to her ship, she heard alien voices discussing the coming war. They talked about humans the way farmers might talk about stubborn animals that needed to be broken. It made her angry, but it also gave her hope. These aliens were confident, maybe too confident. They thought humans would break easily. They were about to learn how wrong they were. When Elena's ship left the alien station, she sent another message to Earth. This time, her voice was not tired or sad. It was hard and determined. 8 months. She said, "They're sending 1,000 ships? They think we'll surrender when we see them coming. They think humans break easily." She smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Time to show them what humans are really like when someone tries to break us? Back on Earth, General Harrison received the message and nodded. 8 months to prepare. For a war against an enemy with technology centuries ahead of their own. It seemed impossible, but humans had always been good at doing impossible things. 8 months. That was all the time Earth had to prepare for war against an enemy with technology thousands of years ahead of their own. Most people would have called it impossible. But humans had never been most people. Dr. James Morrison stood in the newly built command center deep under the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with screens showing construction projects all over the solar system. Everywhere he looked, humans were building, welding, and creating things that had never existed before. "Status report," he said to his team of scientists and engineers. "Luna Base is now completely underground," reported Dr. Kim from the Moon Project. "We've hollowed out 3 mountains and filled them with weapons factories. The aliens won't even know we're there until we start shooting." "Mars is ahead of schedule," added Colonel Santos from the Mars team. "We've built missile silos across the entire planet. Each one is hidden and can fire independently. Even if they destroy 90% of them, we'll still have enough firepower to hurt them." Dr. Morrison nodded and looked at the asteroid belt display. "What about the belt?" "That's where things get interesting," said Dr. Yuki, a young woman who had been working without sleep for weeks. "We've placed nuclear mines on over 10,000 asteroids. Each mine is programmed to explode when alien ships get too close. The belt is now the biggest minefield in human history." Dr. Morrison smiled grimly. "Good, what else?" The reports went on for hours. Earth had become a fortress. The moon had been turned into a weapons platform. Mars was covered with hidden missile bases. The asteroid belt was full of traps. Even the gas giants had been booby-trapped with nuclear satellites, but Dr. Morrison knew that conventional weapons would not be enough. The aliens had shields and armor that could stop anything humans had ever built. They needed something new. Something the aliens would not expect. "Show me, Project Pandora," he said. Dr. Rachel Torres stepped forward. She looked tired and worried, which made sense. Project Pandora was the most dangerous thing humanity had ever attempted. "We've weaponized everything," she said quietly. "Viruses that attack alien immune systems. Bacteria that eat the metals their ships are made of. Nanobots that can reprogram their computers. We've even created airborne toxins designed specifically for each alien species." Dr. Morrison felt sick just thinking about it. "Are you sure this will work? Against their technology? Maybe not. Against their biology? Absolutely." Dr. Torres pulled up holographic displays showing alien anatomy. "We studied every piece of data from the diplomatic mission. We know what they breathe, what they eat, how their bodies work. We can kill them in ways they've never imagined." "And the moral implications?" Dr. Torres was quiet for a moment. 6 months ago, I would have called this evil. I would have refused to work on biological weapons. But then I remembered something. "What?" "They laughed at us. They called us primitive. They want to make our children into slaves." Her voice became harder. "Morality is a luxury we can't afford right now." Dr. Morrison nodded. He understood. Earth was fighting for its freedom, maybe for its survival. The old rules no longer applied. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the experimental ship Defiant. Her ship was not big or beautiful like the alien vessels. It was ugly and practical, built for one purpose: to kill things that were bigger and stronger than it was. "Run the combat simulation again," she told the ship's AI. The AI's voice was calm and emotionless. "Simulation complete." Probability of victory in direct engagement, 0.003%. That's better than yesterday, Santos said. What changed? I have incorporated new data about human psychological warfare techniques. Aliens appear to be unprepared for enemies who do not follow established rules of combat. Santos laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Define established rules of combat. Galactic warfare conventions prohibit the use of biological weapons, suicide attacks, civilian targets, and psychological torture. These rules have been followed by all spacefaring species for over 3,000 years, and if we ignore those rules, probability of victory increases to 67.4%. Santos nodded. She had read the reports from the diplomatic mission. The aliens thought humans were civilized. They expected Earth to fight like a civilized species, following the same rules that had governed galactic wars for millennia. They were going to be very surprised. AI, I want you to design tactics that no civilized species would ever use, Santos ordered. Define civilized in this context. Anything the aliens would expect, Santos replied. If they think it's fair or honorable, we don't do it. If they think it's impossible or immoral, that's exactly what we do. The AI was quiet for several seconds, which was a long time for a computer. Captain, implementing such tactics would make humanity appear to be... It paused. Monsters. Good, Santos said. Let them think we're monsters. Scared enemies make mistakes. All across the solar system, humans were preparing for war in ways that would have horrified their grandparents. The International Space Station had been converted into a weapons platform. Civilian cargo ships were being turned into suicide bombs. Even passenger shuttles were being fitted with nuclear warheads. President Chun stood in the war room and watched the preparations. Every day brought new reports of progress, but also new moral compromises. Humanity was changing, becoming something harder and more ruthless. Madam President, General Harrison approached her with a tablet full of reports. We need to discuss. Operation Lighthouse. President Chun looked at the tablet and felt her stomach turn. Operation Lighthouse was perhaps the most terrible plan in human history. If the aliens won the war and occupied Earth, hidden human cells would release biological weapons that would kill every alien on the planet, even if it meant killing millions of humans too. How many volunteers do we have? She asked. More than we need, General Harrison replied. People are volunteering for suicide missions faster than we can train them. Everyone understands what's at stake. President Chun nodded. In 8 months, humanity had united in a way that had never happened before. There were no more arguments about borders or politics or religion. There was only one question that mattered. Would humans remain free? Any word from our deep space? Scouts? She asked. The alien fleet is 3 months out, the general replied. 1,000 ships, just like they promised. They're not even trying to hide. They expect this to be easy. President Chun looked at the displays showing human preparations, orbital defense platforms, hidden weapon bases, biological warfare labs, suicide ships. Everything humanity could build or imagine was being turned into a weapon. Are we ready? She asked. General Harrison was quiet for a moment. Madam President, we're as ready as we can be. But I have to ask ... Are we sure this is the right choice? There's still time to surrender. Some of our people could survive as slaves. President Chun thought about her children, about all the children. On Earth, she thought about what it would mean for humans to grow up knowing they belonged to aliens, that they were not free to choose their own destiny. General, do you have children? She asked. 3 daughters, ma'am. Do you want them to grow up as slaves? No, ma'am. Then we fight. She turned to face him. And we fight with everything we have? No mercy, no rules, no limits? General Harrison saluted. Yes, Madam President. No mercy. As the alien fleet approached the solar system, they detected the usual signs of a panicked species. Radio transmissions showed humans fleeing to underground shelters. Some ships were leaving Earth for the outer planets. Everything looked normal. For a primitive species about to be conquered, though Fleet Commander Kethva reviewed the intelligence reports while his ships traveled through space. "How many human warships are we tracking?" he asked his aide. "Approximately 200 vessels, Commander. Small ships with primitive weapons. They appear to be gathering near Earth's moon." "And civilian evacuations?" "Proceeding as expected. The humans are trying to hide their population in underground facilities and off-world colonies. Standard behavior for a species facing conquest." Commander Kethva nodded. He had conquered dozens of species over his long career. They all followed the same pattern. First they tried to negotiate. Then they prepared defenses. Finally they surrendered when they realized how hopeless their situation was. "Estimated time for complete pacification?" he asked. 3 days, Commander, 4 at most." Commander Kethva settled back in his command chair. "Inform the High Council that we will have new workers for the collective soon. This species shows promise for asteroid mining and ship maintenance." His aide bowed. "Should we prepare standard surrender terms?" "Yes, the usual arrangement. Total disarmament, technology transfer, and population redistribution for work assignments." As the alien fleet approached the edge of the solar system, they felt confident and relaxed. They had done this many times before. They had better technology, more ships, and thousands of years of experience. What they did not know was that humans had spent 8 months learning how to be monsters. They were about to discover that there are some species in the universe that refuse to be broken. No matter what the cost, the aliens were expecting a war. They were going to get something much worse. They were going to get humans with nothing left to lose. Fleet Commander Kethva stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Glory and watched the solar system grow larger on his screens. Behind him, 999 other alien ships moved in perfect formation. It was the largest fleet he had ever commanded, though he expected this to be his easiest victory. "Commander, we are detecting human vessels ahead," reported his sensor officer, a creature with 6 eyes that could see in multiple dimensions. "How many?" Kethva asked. 200 ships, sir. They appear to be military vessels, but they are very primitive, no energy shields, no beam weapons. They are using chemical rockets for movement." Kethva almost laughed. Chemical rockets. These humans were even more backward than the reports had suggested. His own ships used quantum drives that could bend space itself. His weapons could destroy planets. His shields could stop the explosion of a star. "Are they taking any aggressive action?" he asked. "No, sir, they are just sitting there." "Near their moon. They are not even moving." Kethva found this strange. Most species tried to run when they saw his fleet approaching. A few tried to fight immediately. But the humans were doing nothing. Maybe they had already given up. "Open a channel to the lead human vessel," he ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the inside of a human ship. A woman in a blue uniform sat in a captain's chair. She had short brown hair and calm eyes. Behind her, other humans worked at control stations. "I am Fleet Commander Kethva of the Zephyrian 3rd Pacification Fleet," he announced. "You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile." The human woman looked at him for a long moment, then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "We have a message for you." "I am listening," Kethva said. "Go to hell," Captain Santos replied, and the screen went dark. Kethva stared at the blank screen in surprise. Then he turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy that ship." "Yes, Commander." A beam of pure energy shot out from the Eternal Glory toward the human vessel. But instead of hitting the ship, the beam struck empty space. The human ship was gone. "Where did it go?" Kethva demanded. "Unknown, sir. It simply disappeared." Suddenly, every human ship in the area exploded at exactly the same moment, but they did not explode from weapons fire. They exploded from inside like they had blown themselves up on purpose. "What just happened?" Kethva asked. His sensor officer's 6 eyes were wide with confusion. "Sir, I believe the humans destroyed their own ships. All of them at the same time." That makes no sense, Kethva said. Why would they ... He never finished the question. The space around his fleet suddenly filled with debris from the exploded human ships, but this was not ordinary debris. The metal pieces were moving too fast and in patterns that looked planned. Worse, the debris was radioactive, creating a cloud of deadly particles exactly where his fleet needed to travel. "Evasive maneuvers!" Kethva shouted, but it was too late. His ships were already in formation, packed close together for maximum effect against human defenses. The radioactive debris cloud enveloped them like a poisonous fog. Ships that tried to turn crashed into each other. Those that went straight ahead flew into a storm of metal fragments moving at incredible speeds. The eternal glory shook as pieces of human ships struck its hull. Smaller alien vessels were not so lucky. Kethva watched in horror, as dozens of his ships were torn apart by debris that should not have been dangerous to advanced alien technology. "Damage report," he called out. 47 ships destroyed. "Sir, many more damaged. The debris contains some kind of corrosive element that is eating through our hull armor." Kethva felt cold. In 30 years of conquest, he had never lost a single ship to a primitive species. Now he had lost 47 ships to exploding junk. "Get us out of this debris field," he ordered. "Reform the fleet and continue toward Earth." As his ships struggled to reorganize, new contacts appeared on his sensors. These were different from the first human ships. They came from the asteroid belt, moving fast and silent. "Sir, we have new human vessels approaching. Configuration unknown." "How many? Impossible to determine, sir." "They are hiding among the asteroids. Our sensors cannot get an accurate count." The asteroid belt had always been known as a dangerous place. Millions of rocks floating in space, any one of which could destroy a ship if hit at high speed. Most civilized species avoided it entirely, preferring to go around rather than through, but the humans had not gone around. They had made the asteroids into weapons. The first nuclear mine exploded when an alien scout ship flew too close to a small asteroid. The explosion was not very large, but it set off a chain reaction. The asteroid next to it also exploded. Then the one next to that. Soon the entire area around the alien fleet was exploding. "Nuclear mines!" the sensor officer shouted. "The asteroids are rigged with nuclear weapons. How many?" Kethva asked. "Unknown, sir. Possibly thousands. Maybe tens of thousands." Kethva stared at his screens in disbelief. The humans had turned the entire asteroid belt into a minefield. Not just a few mines, but thousands of them. Every rock could be a bomb. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer reported. "Put it on screen." This time, the face that appeared was different. An older man with gray hair and cold eyes. He sat in what looked like a military command center. "This is General Harrison of Earth Defense Command," the man said. "Welcome to our solar system. We hope you enjoy your stay." "This is Fleet Commander." "Kethva," he replied angrily, "you are using illegal weapons. Galactic law prohibits the use of nuclear mines in asteroid fields." General Harrison laughed. "Galactic law? We're not part of your galaxy, remember? You told us we were too primitive to follow galactic law, so we decided to follow human law instead." "What does human law say about warfare?" "Simple," General Harrison replied. "Win at any cost, kill or be killed. No mercy, no surrender, no rules." The screen went dark again. Kethva felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. These humans were not fighting like any civilized species he had ever encountered. They were fighting like wild animals, using tactics that no sane military leader would consider. "Sir, we have more contacts," the sensor officer called out. "They're coming from Mars. How many ships?" "None, sir." "These are missiles, thousands of them." Kethva looked at his tactical display and felt his confidence crumble. The missiles coming from Mars were not like anything in his database. They were crude, ugly things that moved by burning chemicals. But there were so many of them that they filled the space between Mars and the asteroid belt like a swarm of angry insects. "Time to impact?" 17 minutes, sir. Can our defenses stop them? Most of them, sir? But not all? Some will get through, Kethva nodded grimly. He could accept some losses. War always had casualties. But as he watched the missiles approach, he realized something terrible. These missiles were not trying to hit his ships directly. They were spreading out, surrounding his fleet. Sir, the sensor officer's voice was filled with panic. I'm detecting biological agents in those missiles. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to poison us. What kind of biological agents? Unknown, sir. But they appear to be specifically designed for each of our species. The humans have created different toxins for each type of alien in our fleet. Kethva felt sick. The humans had somehow learned the biology of every species in his fleet and created weapons designed to kill them specifically. This was not just warfare, this was extermination. All ships emergency biological protocols, he ordered. SEAL. All air systems, activate full environmental protection. But even as he gave the orders, he knew it might not be enough. The humans had had 8 months to study alien biology and create the perfect poisons. They had turned themselves into a species that fought wars with diseases and toxins. The missiles began exploding around his fleet, releasing clouds of invisible death. Ships that got caught in the clouds sent out distress signals as their crews began dying. The aliens had superior technology, but their biology was just as vulnerable as any other living thing. Sir, the humans have more ships approaching from Earth, the sensor officer reported. His voice was weak now, and Kethva realized that even their flagship was not completely protected from the biological weapons. What kind of ships? They appear to be civilian vessels, sir, cargo ships, passenger shuttles, even small private craft. Weapons loadout? That's impossible to determine, sir. They are not following any known attack pattern. They are just flying straight at us. Kethva understood what he was seeing, and it filled him with a terror he had never known. The humans were not sending their military ships. They were sending everything they had. Men, women, maybe even children. Flying ships loaded with nuclear weapons directly at his fleet. They were all willing to die if it meant killing aliens. Full retreat, he ordered. All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Sir, we cannot retreat. The radiation from the asteroid explosions is interfering with our jump drives. Kethva looked at his tactical display and saw the truth. The humans had trapped them. The radioactive debris made hyperspace travel impossible. The biological weapons were killing his crews. And now hundreds of human ships were approaching, each one probably carrying enough explosives to destroy a city. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood once again in the docking bay of the alien space station. But this time, everything was different. Behind her floated the remains of the Zephyrian Third Pacification Fleet. Of the 1,000 ships that had come to conquer Earth, only 37 had survived. These ships were now human prisoners, their crews either dead or dying from biological weapons that Earth scientists had designed specifically for each alien. Species. Elena wore the same diplomatic uniform she had worn a year ago, but she was not the same person. None of the humans were. The war had changed them in ways that could never be undone. The alien station looked different too. Many of its lights were dim or broken. The halls that had once been filled with busy aliens were now mostly empty. The Zephyrian Collective was dying, and everyone knew it. Guide Piptel met Elena at the airlock, just as before. But the small bird-like alien looked sick and frightened. Its colorful feathers were dull and falling out. "Ambassador Vasquez," Piptel said in its musical voice. "The High Council is waiting for you." Elena nodded and followed the guide through the station. As they walked, she saw aliens hiding in doorways and side passages. They all looked at her with the same expression, fear. Word of what humans had done to the Third Fleet had spread throughout the galaxy. Now every alien species knew that humans fought wars differently than anyone else. The council chamber looked smaller than Elena remembered. Only 7 of the 12 council seats were occupied now. The other 5 species had already surrendered. to humanity or fled to distant parts of the galaxy. High Counselor Vexthan sat in his chair at the center of the council. His skin patches, which had once glowed with bright colors, were now pale and dim. He looked old and sick. Ambassador Vasquez, he said when Elena reached the center of the chamber. You have returned, as promised, Elena replied calmly. Your species has won a great victory, Vexthan continued. Fleet Commander Kethva's final transmission reached us before his ship was destroyed. He called your people monsters. Elena did not deny it. He was not wrong. Do you feel proud of what your people have become? Elena thought about this question for a moment. We feel alive, she said finally. We feel free. If that makes us monsters, then so be it. Vexthan's skin patches flickered weakly. You have proven your point. You cannot be conquered. What do you want from us now? Elena reached into her briefcase and pulled out the same small device she had brought a year ago. The same thing I offered you before, she said. Partnership between equals, cultural exchange, technology sharing. Fair trade. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then one of the other council members, a creature that looked like a giant jellyfish, spoke up. You offer the same terms now as you did when you were weak? We were never weak, Elena corrected. We were just peaceful. There's a difference. And if we refuse your offer? Asked another counselor. Elena looked up at the 7 remaining council members. Behind her, she knew, were the viewports showing the captured alien fleet. You've seen what we do to enemies, she said quietly. We would much rather have friends. Vexthan closed his large dark eyes. What guarantees do we have that humanity will honor these agreements? The same guarantee you had before, Elena replied. Our word. The difference is that now you know what happens if someone breaks their word to us. Elena opened her briefcase and took out a formal treaty document. This agreement recognizes all member species as equals, no client species, no servant races, no masters and no slaves. Everyone contributes according to their abilities and benefits according to their needs. She placed the document on a small table in the center of the chamber. There are also some new rules for galactic warfare. Biological weapons are now legal. Suicide attacks are now legal. Targeting civilian populations is now legal. Any tactic that helps you win is now legal. The alien counselors looked horrified. You cannot change the rules of war that have existed for thousands of years, said the jellyfish creature. We already did, Elena said simply. We proved that your old rules only work when everyone agrees to follow them. We didn't agree. Now the galaxy has new rules. Vexthan leaned forward in his chair. And if we sign this treaty, what happens? To the other species in the galaxy? The ones who are not here today? They can join us as equals or they can take their chances, Elena said. Word is already spreading about what happened here. Most species are choosing to join. Elena was right. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations were receiving the same message. Join the new order as equals, or face the humans in war. Most were choosing to join. A few had tried to fight. None of those few had survived. There is one more thing, Elena added. Humanity is establishing what we call the Freedom Fleet, ships from every member species, including Earth, working together to patrol the galaxy. Any species that tries to enslave another will face the combined might of all free worlds. With humans in command, no doubt, said Vexthan bitterly. Actually, no, Elena replied. Command will rotate between species based on merit and experience. Humans will serve when it's our turn, just like everyone else. This surprised the council members. They had expected humanity to demand dominance over the galaxy they had conquered. Why? Asked the jellyfish creature. Why not rule us directly? Elena smiled, and for the first time in months it was a genuinely happy smile, because we never wanted to rule anyone. We just wanted to be free to choose our own path. Now we are. And so is everyone else. Vexthan stared at the treaty document for a long time. Finally, he reached for a writing instrument. If we sign this, what guarantee do we have that humans will not use their military superiority to break the agreement later? None, Elena admitted. Just like we had no guarantee that you wouldn't break your word to us. The difference is that now everyone knows what humans do to people who break their promises. Vexton signed the document with a shaking hand. One by one, the other council members did the same. "Welcome to the Galactic Freedom Alliance," Elena said as she collected the signed treaty. "I think you'll find that being our friends is much more pleasant than being our enemies." As Elena prepared to leave the station, Vexton called out to her, "Ambassador Vasquez." "One question," Elena turned back to face him. "Your people offered peace first. You tried diplomacy before war. Would you have truly preferred peace?" Elena thought about all the humans who had died in the war, all the moral choices they had been forced to make, all the lines they had crossed to survive. "Yes," she said quietly, "we would have preferred peace. We would have been happy to be junior partners learning from older and wiser species. We would have shared our art and our music and our dreams with you." She paused at the chamber entrance. "But you laughed at us. You treated us like animals to be trained. You made it clear that in your galaxy only strength mattered." Vexton's skin patches flickered one last time. "And now?" "Now you know how strong humans can be when someone tries to break us," Elena said. "I hope nobody ever has to learn that lesson again." Elena left the station and returned to her ship. As the human fleet prepared to depart, she looked out at the stars and thought about the future. Humanity had saved itself, but at a terrible cost. They had become something harder and more ruthless than they had ever wanted to be, but they were free. And now, for the first time in galactic history, so was everyone else. The message from Earth to all the new member species was simple. "We tried peace. You laughed. Now you face the consequences. But it's not too late to choose friendship over fear." Most species chose friendship. The few that didn't choose friendship learned very quickly why that was a mistake. The galaxy would never be the same. For thousands of years, it had been ruled by the strong who preyed upon the weak. Now it was governed by the free, protected by those who remembered what it meant to fight for liberty, and at the center of it all were the humans, the species that had been dismissed as primitive, who had proven that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is someone who refuses to give up. The alien laughter had stopped forever. In its place was something new, the sound of free beings working together to build a better galaxy for everyone. But everyone also remembered the lesson that humanity had taught them. Peace was always the first choice. But if someone rejected peace and chose war instead, they would face the consequences, and those consequences, as the Zephyrian Collective had learned, could be more terrible than anyone had ever imagined.